John Beck here in the San Gabriel Mountains with two BMWs, the R1250 GS and the radical new R1300 GS. And BMW's redesign of this legendary platform took a huge departure in the introduction of the R1300 GS. So now we're going to jump into a comparison of how this bike differs from its predecessor in the R1250, what sort of upgrades they've made, and who this bike is for.
Looking for more exciting motorcycle travel, editorial, reviews, news, and resources for planning your next motorcycle tour? RoadRUNNER.
So with such a significant update, a significant change to the GS platform, the nagging question is, who is the 1300 for? Obviously, as a GS person, you know these bikes are legendary for their off-road and their touring capability. The 1250, with the introduction of the shift cam and all, set kind of a new benchmark for that with the GS, although it is a big bike and a heavy bike. For all the touring needs, for all the off-road needs that you've always known from the GS platform, the 1250, the 1300 doesn't take away from it at all. The abilities are amazing. Shifting to the 1300, I would say it's exactly like the 1250. It just expands the boundaries of everything you can do on the road and off-road. Because on the road, you've got all these electronic things like the windscreen and locking luggage and things that are very touring oriented. So for the on-road touring, it's amazing. You're getting these very road-going features in a package that also now positions you farther forward. It's a lot lighter, so its off-road capability has also improved. The 1250 sort of broke some ground because it was the first bike to come out with the shift cam technology, which basically created two motors in one. The motor has a different behavior at lower RPMs compared to higher RPMs. So that was a new thing. What this GS continued with was sort of increasing size, increasing weight. Every subsequent model, from the 1100 to the 1150 to the 1200 to the 1250, it kind of became a theme where these bikes were known for just growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Then comes the 1300, and this really is a game changer for the GS platform. Not only did this bike lose weight, a little bit controversial, it lost the asymmetrical headlight. What this bike has gained in the few miles I've been able to test it so far is incredible. To underscore how much of a change the 1300 is from the past GS platforms, from what I understand, only 4 part numbers were carried over from the GS line. This is a complete redesign. It's a brand new bike. The X headlight I mentioned before was a bit of a controversy. I very quickly grew to like it just because of how well the rest of the bike performs. Aesthetically, it not only looks but feels more like an aggressive rally bike. The seating position, the standing position, you're more forward on the bike. It's more of an aggressive attack position, attack riding position. Typically, the electronically adjustable windscreen is something you'd associate more with the touring bikes, like the K1600 and things like that, not so much on an adventure bike. Quickly became a feature I like a lot, mainly because the airflow on this bike in the high position, normally I'm not a fan of windscreens. I like them either completely up, completely down, or gone. This thing was probably one of the smoothest airflows I've had off an adventure bike, both by virtue of the windscreen and also the funny looking ears kind of sticking out here. The 1250 has the same thing, they're just redesigned, a little bit larger, different shape. They have some pass-throughs on the 1300. Overall, the cockpit was amazingly smooth for me on road. Back to the windscreen, it's adjustable by a button on the left switch cluster. However, that button has to be assigned. I believe there's one of 5 or so features in there. Up pops a menu, and you can take this button to be your windscreen, to operate the heated seats, to operate the heated grips. There's a variety of things that you can assign it to do, which is a plus and a minus. Because, like, for example, at one point I was riding and I realized my ass is on fire. It's because the heated seat was on, and there is no button here to turn the heated seats off. You actually have to go into this menu, program the toggle switch to operate the heated seats, then you can turn the heated seats off, then you have to go back into the menu, reprogram it to adjust the windscreen, then you see what I mean? It kind of goes on and on. It's really cool. There's a lot of technology in there, but with a lot of technology comes a lot of menus, unfortunately. I personally think BMW is kind of still finding their way with the menus. If you compare this, like, say, to the Triumph Tiger platform, that one honestly has more buttons on the switch cluster, but once you know what they are, I think it's a bit more convenient because when you want to do a feature, it's right there. You don't have to search for it in a menu. Flip side of that is, once you learn the menus, once you're comfortable with it, if you're a menu person, then yeah, this works fine. One other feature on the 1300 that is pretty unique and completely out of sight is the seat. It has a 2-position adjustable seat, which is common on a lot of bikes. However, the way this mechanism works is, as far as I know, unique. I've never seen this on a bike before, in that most seats, when you take it off, there's a mechanism to position the seat in one of a couple positions, and it physically moves the pan up or down. This seat doesn't do that. You pop it off, you flip the button, and it redesigns the internal structure of the seat, which actually raises it inside, but the pan stays physically in the same spot. The pilot seat is heated as well. However, the heating on the pilot seat is controllable via the multifunction switch once it's assigned to that feature. The passenger seat is heated as well, but that's controlled by an independent button on the left side here, so the passenger has full control over that. From the cockpit, first of all, the more forward seating position feels very familiar to me. It harkens back to like early days on KTMs. And regarding the KTM thing, this one actually they finally put a glove box where like the old original 950 did in this spot, which is just super convenient. Like especially simple things like border crossing, stuff like that, or a toll booth, when you're at a gate and you need to fumble for a passport and you're dealing with zippers and pockets and things like that. It's not super convenient. It's so great to have something as simple like this that's the right size for a toll, for a passport, for documentation, for checkpoints, things like that, so you can just roll up and have everything ready to go. Difference between the old bikes, as technology increases, it does have an internal power port as well. So if you have anything less than like a gigantic plus size phone, you can fit it in there, and if your phone is small enough, you can actually plug it in and have it charging while you're on the road as well. Another stock feature too regarding electronics, this bike does come with, as the 1250 did as well, with the GPS mount. The Navigator 5 GPS is still available. However, as far as I know, those are being phased out. In everybody using cell phones now, it's pretty ubiquitous. So there is a pretty cool inductive charging adapter that goes into the same mount that's used by the Nav 5, so you throw your phone in there and you've got inductive charging right away. Doing a comparison on both these bikes, in a way it's nice, they're sort of evenly shod. Got the Metzeler Tourants on the 1300, have the Bridgestone Battle Axe Adventure tires on the 1250, which are both right in that 80-20 road versus off-road realm. Some would say probably 90-10 maybe, but it's definitely more of a street tire. So I did get a chance to ride the 1300 off-road. I actually just came back from a press launch for another BMW, the F900 GS. I was on this one. Wasn't the most ideal test though, because, well, first of all, I was riding as a videographer, so I had a 45-pound pack on my back, which is not the greatest thing to test a bike like this off-road. But the other thing is the tires. This thing has Metzeler Tourants tires on it, which are, it's a great touring tire. It's not exactly the most aggressive off-road tire. Even with street bias tires and a 40-pound pack, the agility of the 1300 chassis it can't be ignored. Whether it's the weight difference, whether it's the more forward riding position, whatever magic juju they cooked into this new design, it really is a game changer. It's not just aesthetic, it's how the bike actually performs and how the chassis actually reacts to rider feedback. One other very unique feature about the 1300 that I'll point out, but I haven't actually got to try yet, part of the electronics package, you can see I've removed one of the ports here for the electronically locking luggage. Now, I haven't actually seen the panniers yet, they're not available, but it is another cool feature. The luggage mounts on the two bikes, they appear to be very similar with this sort of tab affair that the Vario cases have. So the Vario cases on the 1250, by the way, will not fit on the 1300. I tried it and just the things don't line up. But as far as the design of how they mount, they look to be very similar. This one has that port there that I mentioned. So that's another cool feature that points back to it's this amazing mix of like K1600 level touring amenities in an adventure bike, which is super unusual. And the fact that they did all that and dropped the weight by 26 pounds is pretty incredible. As simple as it is, the side stand is way more convenient to use on the 1300 than the 1200. They're similar, it's a better design. They've changed all the parts. The thing that you'll really notice, this 1250 does not have a center stand on it, the 1300 does. And even the center stand design is like more technologically advanced. The little tab that you use to push down on it actually retracts. So if you've ever had that symptom, especially when you're off-road and standing, some of the center stand designs, the little extension that you use to get leverage to get the bike up onto it, can hit you in the back of the boot, especially in off-road situations, or if the stand bounces, you know, that thing sticking up, that's what creates more leverage with the weight of the center stand itself and can cause it to bounce around, stuff like that. So BMW came up with a design that I've never seen before on any bike where that extension actually retracts and it lines up flat. With the BMW platform, it has such a deep heritage, and you become accustomed to a certain thing. Things like the lacking of the asymmetrical headlight. There was a lot of fervor on that online, of course, when it first happened, because it was such a radical departure from the traditional design of the GS platform. Is that enough to steer someone away from the GS platform to something else? Possibly. It depends on how much of a traditionalist you are, I suppose. As far as performance, what I can see so far, I haven't really found any downsides to the improvements on the 1300 yet. It just works better. It seems to perform better in all regards. Having ridden BMW GS models going back over 20 years, it's difficult to overstate the massive amount of change in the redesigned R1300 GS. More than redesigned, the legendary GS has been reimagined in the 1300. Rather than an attempt to improve on the engineering of previous models, the spirit of GS became the central design theme and an entirely new bike was developed. Time will tell if this new bike fits in seamlessly to the past 40+ years of design history or begins a new paradigm for the BMW GS. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and hope to see you on the trail. Hi, it's my co-reviewer.